I think it takes a lot of courage to start a business, and it's really scary, and you don't immediately know that other people will buy your product. So I was like, no way. I have this bakery style cookie in the comfort of my home. Like, this is amazing. And that moment was when it clicked, like, okay, I'm going to sell baked from frozen cookie dough, not the baked cookies the way that I was doing while I was living in Uruguay. And I'm going to sell them in supermarkets everywhere.
And I feel that finding that tribe is so important. Like, people as an entrepreneur, it's a lonely journey out there,
Yay!
Welcome to our new episode, Chine Champagne. Here we talk about business, motherhood, and everything in between. I'm Elena, your co-host. I'm a founder of My Beware and creator of unique potty training and bedwetting underwear with adjustable absorbency that helps kids graduate from diapers faster and mess-free.
I'm Neha. I am the founder of Neha and Coco, a skincare brand especially designed for babies and kids, meeting the needs of millennial and Gen Z parents, and also the co-founder of ProBites Co., a healthy snacking brand with zero preservatives and no sugar so that you snack guilt-free. Today, we have a very special guest with us. She traveled to Uruguay at a young age of 23, fell in love with the culture and people, and came back with a cookie business. Please welcome Sweet Caroline, the founder of Gringuita Cookies. Welcome, Caroline.
Thank you.
Cheers, ladies.
Cheers.
Thanks for having me.
Of course. Thank you for coming here. I know, let me tell a little backstory. When we met first time, I tried your cookies at a farmer's market. I was there with my daughter and instantly fell in love. They were so nice. They were so chunky, so gooey, filled with chocolate. Like, I still remember the taste of it. They were so nice. But I want to kind of go back and do a bit of backstory and understand. So you went to Uruguay, you were a teacher, and how did cookie come into picture? Let us understand that.
Yeah, so not immediately. It was never the plan. I moved to South America, to Uruguay, because I love to travel and I love to learn new cultures, and I was already proficient, pretty fluent in Spanish. And so I wanted to go to a Spanish-speaking country, and I got a job teaching English, and I moved there. So I had no connection to the country, didn't know a single person living there. I was completely on my own. And the first year that I was there, I lived in a dorm-style apartment. So think of like a long-term hostel. It was a bunch of young adults. We were all pretty much in our 20s, co-ed, and we all were from either Uruguay, Venezuela, Cuba, and I was the only American and only English speaker. And I started baking American-style cookies for my roommates, just because we spent a lot of time together and I grew up baking. So it wasn't ever the plan to start a business. And for that entire first year, all of my roommates were like, these are so good, you could totally sell them. And I think it takes a lot of courage to start a business, and it's really scary, and you don't immediately know that other people will buy your product. So I was like, no way. But one of my roommates, she was like, I bake brownies and carrot cake and other sweet treats, and you make amazing cookies. Let's sell them. And we went and started at kind of a little farmer's market. And it was the first time that I ever sold anything that I had created, and people were really receptive to it. And so it kind of just clicked for me. And I ended up coming up with a ton of different recipes, and not just cookies, but I found that everybody always came back for the cookies. And so I started an Instagram page and started posting photos of these creations of my cookies. And it kind of just snowballed and took over my life.
I love it.
Thank you.
It was like a really brainstorming. It was a collective brainstorming that brought you actually to this space.
I don't think that I ever would have had the courage to do it without my friend saying let's do this together.
Yeah.
And also I was surrounded by other immigrants. So for her, in her case, she actually came from Venezuela. And I was traveling to Uruguay and living there on my own, which was super difficult. But I wanted to be there. So it was difficult, but it was something that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
In her case, she faced so many challenges and she didn't want to be there. She never wanted to leave her home country. So I thought she was so brave and she really inspired me. And I tried to be influenced by that. And it kind of, little by little, I kept chipping away at my fears. And, I started really small and just kind of kept riding that wave.
So you had an idea, you got great response from people, but as a CPG founder, we always know that, okay, this could be a business. There is one moment or one particular event or an activity that kind of, cements our confidence in it. What was that moment for you?
So after about a year of selling the cookies in Uruguay, and I thought, maybe one day I would open a cookie shop in Montevideo. Like that was what I was thinking. I came back to quarantine in March of 2020, almost exactly 6 years ago. Wasn't planning on staying here. And the borders closed indefinitely the next day. So here I was with all of the momentum that I had from selling the cookies over there and the feedback that I got and my obsession. And I had all of that. And then I was stuck here. And I kept making more cookies, experimenting with more flavors. And I was staying with my parents, middle of the pandemic. And I was freezing all of my dough balls the same way that I was freezing the cookie dough balls in Montevideo. And as kind of like a baking hack to not have food waste and for them to always be fresh. And so I was doing that here in Florida. And one of my childhood friends came over one day and she said, or I offered her cookies as I always do. And she was like, no, I'm not hungry right now. And I put one of my frozen dough balls in a Ziploc bag and wrote directions on it in Sharpie and gave it to her. And I was like, have this whenever you feel like, bake it 13 to 15 minutes, $3.90. And later she calls me up and she's like, my house smells like fresh baked cookies. I have this bakery style cookie in the comfort of my home. Like, this is amazing. And that moment was when it clicked, like, okay, I'm going to sell bake from frozen cookie dough, not the baked cookies the way that I was doing while I was living in Uruguay. And I'm going to sell them in supermarkets everywhere. And I had
smart idea.
Thank you. Yeah. So it is because, and it was kind of in that time when, everything was shut down. So it made sense to sell something that people could bake in their homes. Yeah. But it also is an innovation on cookie dough, store-bought cookie dough. So my mission is to redefine store-bought cookie dough. And with it being frozen, it's made with butter, real ingredients, and no preservatives, but it naturally lasts in the freezer for up to a year. So I started researching and found like stand-up pouches that are resealable. So customers could bake just one or two at a time, keep the rest in the freezer for whenever they feel like. And I read a blog that Whole Foods Market buys from small suppliers, so I could sell to just one Whole Foods. And that could be my way into selling to more supermarkets. So that was my goal, just sell to one Whole Foods locally. And what do I need to do that? And how can I work my way backwards? And that's exactly what I did.
How did you reach out to this Whole Foods that you started with?
So not immediately. Immediately, like the first thing that I did was I started selling in neighborhoods and farmers markets.
Okay.
And later on, I researched what do I need in order to get into Whole Foods? Okay, I need to work out of a commercial kitchen. I can't do this out of my home. So I ended up renting space in a commercial kitchen. Little investment. It was, already built out and I was just renting one table. And from there, I grew out of that kitchen and I started renting space out of a catering company's kitchen. And I grew out of that space and I started renting space in a bakery. And in the bakery, I could have access to their commercial equipment, like massive mixers, because prior to that, I was mixing everything with my two hands.
Oh my God. Quite a workout.
It was definitely a workout, a labor of love. But around that, at that time when I was already in a commercial kitchen, I started selling to my local gourmet market. So the seafood market, the butcher shop, kind of hitting, all of the mom and pop shops in my area, because I knew that Whole Foods would want to see proof of concept and traction. And so I every day was working towards selling to Whole Foods before I was even close to being ready. And then I started interviewing people that were local brands that were selling to a handful of stores, so not national brands, but selling to Whole Foods, just in South Florida. And I would ask them, how did you do it? You know, getting emails, and so I started emailing and nothing happened, silence. And then in 2023, so I was already 3 years into the business, I am thinking about Whole Foods every day. Totally obsessing.
Throwing it into the universe.
Exactly. It was the background of my phone was totally. Yeah, because I think it's not just about like manifesting. I love woo-woo, but it's really about having a goal and working towards it.
Yeah.
Because you're never going to just land your product in a store like Whole Foods without wanting that first. You know, it doesn't just happen. You need that vision, and then you need to take actionable steps. Exactly. Yeah. And so in 2023, I applied to Whole Foods Accelerator Program, and they only accept 10 companies in the country per year. It's super competitive. In that specific year, they had over 1,000 applicants, and I got in.
Wow.
And
in the first go itself?
So it was a round of applying different like series. So, you know, first you apply and then you pass that round and then they come back to you and say like, okay, do this now. And it was probably over a period of maybe 6 months. And then the final part of the application was like an interview, and it was through Zoom, thankfully, because I think in person I would have been shaking. I mean, I was definitely still shaking, but it was with, you know, all of the buyers, like multiple people looking at me. It totally
Prove
was.
us that it works. Prove us.
Yeah, exactly.
But I imagine how it's nerve-wracking, but the experience should be top-notch.
Yes. So exactly. And after I got in, it was a 12-week course. So every week we met for I think 3 hours and got to meet with Whole Foods stakeholders and industry experts and, you know, ask questions to panelists. And it was so informative and I learned so much. And the main point of the accelerator is, so the accelerator that I got into was for brands that do not yet sell to Whole Foods, but have the potential to be on shelf there. And so it was really setting us up for success for when we do launch in the store. But you still have to go through the onboarding and everything else that all of the other brands have to do, which was also a learning curve for sure.
Did it change your life, honestly? Because everybody, like, especially in the food business and skincare, everybody dreams of being on the shelf of Whole Foods and Target and Walmart, you know, to the likes of it. But does it actually moves the needle? Like, did it for you?
So I only launched in 17 stores, which at that time was like, I was like, oh my God.
I want this kind of problems.
Yeah, it's so true. And it was definitely scary. And in order to launch into those stores, which was all of South Florida, I moved from, you know, selling individual cases of product to stores with me delivering to all of a sudden selling pallets. So I've learned a lot throughout that process.
Were you prepared for it? Like when that happened, you know, to sell out to those 17 stores, how did you go from like whatever you were doing to those mega, you know, 17 stores, you know, fulfilling the orders for the 70 stores? I think that's going to be my next question, but I want you to complete this first.
So I got sidetracked. What was the question prior to that?
The question was, how did getting into Whole Foods help
change
you?
Okay.
Yes.
So with the 17 stores, I did think that, you know, that it is a big deal, but it moves. Like if you think of a grocery store, you don't see people rushing through the aisles, buying all of the products. It's not like it's flying off shelf. Like you need really to be in a significant number of stores in order for it to be life-changing. Yeah. So with the 17 stores, I got my foot in the door. And that is life-changing and incredible. And it sets me up to scale. And I needed to start with that number because I think anything larger than that would have been too overwhelming. I'm doing this on my own and, you know, I don't have a consultant whispering in my ear what to do and what not to do. I'm learning it as I go. So I think it's good to start more conservatively, which I do see like the South Florida stores as a smaller number. So I think that was something that I learned was that it didn't move as fast as I thought it would have after that happened. I thought I would get in and everything else would just fall into place and all of the other stores would want to buy, and that didn't happen.
So how did you flip the narrative from there?
Well, I showed up at the stores and I sampled, and it moved slowly, but eventually they moved us into more stores. So now we're in all of Florida, which is exciting. It's 34 stores.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. And then, after pitching other supermarkets, we're starting to get some yeses. So it's slow. It takes time. People don't immediately, they're watching you. They're watching to see how you're doing on shelf and if Whole Foods is expanding you. And they're just kind of sitting back and watching right now, or at least that's how I feel. But moving from, to answer your other question, individual cases to all of the sudden doing pallets was, just so scary.
Did you call in your parents and your friends to come in and help? Those are obvious helpers, right?
Yeah. So my mom has helped me some, but I actually find that it's better to, and not that it's a bad thing to use family or friends, but I don't really lean on them in that way. Mm-hmm. I have one of the best helpers in the world, and I got so lucky. He has been working with me for like 5.5 years now. And he can't be full-time with me. He works in his family's bakery, but he starting out small, and he still comes in once a week. So he can't be my full-time baker, but he helped me so much with keeping up with demand. And then, I was in the kitchen up until 5 months ago, I would say 4 or 5 months ago, was me, cranking out the cookie dough, which I think might have held me back. Like, maybe I should have hired more people earlier. And that way I could have worked on growing the business and not in the kitchen.
Just managing the business.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I do also think everything happens in its time, and everything has worked out fine. But yeah, for that initial order of pallets, it was my very first time assembling pallets. My first purchase order with my distributor was for about 1,500 pounds of cookie dough. And
oh my God.
It's so funny, right? I was like, what? So it was so scary. And nobody told me, what the labeling needs to be like on the cases and how to assemble a pallet. So I looked up on Google on like a pallet calculator how high I could assemble the pallet, because again, it was my first time. I've never put a pallet together. And I got, the height, and it tells you like the tie high. So like the rows of cases that you need on each level and how high you can stack it. And I did it, and then I bought pallet wrap, although it wasn't pallet wrap. It was like moving wrap from Home Depot that you would use to like wrap boxes.
Yeah.
And that was a mistake.
And
so, wrap the pallets, and they're in like my walk-in freezer. We're not moving them. And the distributor, the truck driver comes on the day that he was supposed to. And I was like sweating and like, I was like, hi, I'm Caroline. Like, this is my first time delivering pallets. And he was like, oh God. And I was by myself, and I bought a hot pink pallet jack, like the thing that moves pallets. And he was like, I'm not using that. So he had his own pallet jack, and he goes to move the pallets down from the freezer, and they just topple, like fall over, both of them.
Oh my God.
And then
I imagine the stress.
So it was worse because he had parked his truck, and I'm in kind of like a warehousey area, and he parked his truck blocking the entrance to all of the warehouses. So other people, he blocked the traffic. Now there are boxes everywhere, like all over the road.
And it's blocked completely.
Everything's blocked. People are waiting and like watching me frantically like re-pallet them. Yeah. And, he was really gracious with me. And yeah, I mean, I wish there were a video of me running around with the palette wrap, like trying to redo them. And if you ever do end up wrapping a palette, it's actually a massive exercise. So,
oh my God, what a story.
Yeah.
And it's true. If you had a video of that, it would go viral.
probably.
With all the wrapping and the palettes on the floor.
Yep, it was pretty bad. But you don't know until you know.
No.
And I always tell myself it's, you have to look bad before you can get good at
true.
something.
Yeah.
Like you're going to be bad. And I actually think my time living in Uruguay and speaking Spanish as a second language really helped me with that, because you have to be bad at a language before you get good at a language. And you just have to kind of like let go of your ego and be okay with making mistakes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And-
that's so true.
And looking, as you say, looking bad, looking ugly, but at one point we...
Still
It's okay.
persisting through it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it makes a good story.
Definitely.
You mentioned that you Googled things like
Oh,
you
yeah.
didn't know how to do the palette and anything. Did you have any, like maybe do you have now, or did you have in the past any mentors that you referred to? And if so, like how do you find them?
So I do have a mentor right now who doesn't really help me with any day-to-day things. He's really good at like helping with my confidence, I would say.
More like a therapist.
Yeah. I don't know if you would like that, but I found him through Score at score.org.
Okay.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh.
Never heard of it. Okay.
So yeah, and
I
he
never
actually
could find someone there. I'm part of it, but like,
you can sign up for a mentor.
yeah, I've signed up and I never could find anyone.
I don't know, maybe keep poking them.
Yeah.
And it's not always the right fit. Like I think that he's really good with telling me, to just get out there and do it. And it's nice to have somebody who's done it tell you like you're not crazy, keep going, because I don't come from like a family of entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
I'm, nobody.
First time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So family and friends can support by, buying the cookie dough, going to the stores, and we're telling their friends about it. But actual like entrepreneurial mindset things that need to come from elsewhere. So he's good with that. And then I connect with so many people, honestly, like through Instagram and just other founders. I definitely look for people who have kind of like a similar business, but are farther along. And I just stay in touch with them. Networking, you kind of have to be proactive, I would say. I don't think, and maybe people aren't mentors, but they, I'm friends with somebody who has a frozen pierogi brand. And so she understands frozen logistics, and I'll reach out to her. And she's scaled, she's national with multiple retailers.
Yeah.
So, and I met her through the Whole Foods Accelerator. And I still stay in touch with everybody else in the accelerator. And I think another great way in food, consumer packaged goods, is like the Specialty Food Association. Startup CPG is nice. So just kind of being proactive.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
I think when you're an entrepreneur, you have to like be proactive and also be very creative. The way that where you can find people that can either help you, just connect with you, and help each other. So definitely understand you.
And I feel that finding that tribe is so important. Like, people as an entrepreneur, it's a lonely journey out there. You struggle every day. There is so much of doubt, self-doubt, am I doing the right thing? So I think connecting with entrepreneurs who have already done that, or even on a similar journey with you, can kind of, take off that mental load in a big way. So definitely.
It's important.
It's
It
really
is.
important.
I think it's essential, even because otherwise you will just burn out so fast.
Yes.
When you're on your own, just facing the mirror, and you don't know. There are some moments, like I had this moment
Dark
yesterday
moments.
when I didn't know, and then there are dark
Yeah,
moments as
true.
well, and you need someone who would tell you, no, you go,
Yep.
you go.
And also listening to podcasts. So having those like
Yeah.
parasocial. So How I Built This, that's great. And How I Built This is good. What's the Emma Grede podcast? I like her. I don't know if you've seen that. Diary of a CEO.
I
Diary
love
of
it,
a CEO, yes,
Love
that's
him.
so nice.
Yeah.
listen to sometimes. Yeah. That's amazing. They are
And
all
this
amazing.
podcast.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure. So 6 years in the business, Caroline, close to 6 years.
Yep.
You have done, you were recently in Plum also. You went to Plum Organics and you were here in Whole Foods. And then you are online also. What do you think is like, drives your margins better? Is it at Whole Foods or is it like the online?
Definitely not online for me because it's frozen. So it's really expensive for both me and the customer. And I offer it, but I do not promote it. So it's really if somebody's actually looking,
Really want it.
really wants, exactly. And so definitely working with my distributor is great because I use Whole Foods as an anchor account in order to get the partnership with my distributor, but they distribute other places. So that has been good. And now I work with another regional distributor in the Midwest and I sell to a supermarket there. And I also work with a dairy company also in the Midwest. And those actually were two of my largest orders. They were for 2,200 pounds with the dairy company and the Midwest distributor, which both happened this year. So that was exciting. And yeah, I mean, I definitely want to continue to scale with supermarkets. The D2C part is tricky and it just will be with frozen.
Yeah, I think it's not maybe for everyone. Indeed,
Yeah.
when you have a frozen product, I'm sure that you need to make sure that it is in special storage, it's shipped in special.
The dry ice and insulation. And so it makes more sense for a high-end steak, like a premium steak company to ship an expensive piece of steak, but selling cookies, it's a little tricky.
Yeah. Tell me about distribution. How do you, what kind of relationship do you share with your distributors? How do you find them? What kind of day-to-day, conversation you have with them? Do you tell them that I want to be in this store or the distributors come back to you with a list? How does that work?
It is something that you need to be proactive about. Otherwise, your products will just sit in their distribution centers. So I actually have to do outreach to their sales reps. But it's funny that my story with my current distributor, because I met one of their sales reps at a farmer's market, probably in either 2020 or 2021. And he was like, I love your product. It was probably before I had printed packaging because I started out with just plain white bags and stickers.
Really
and
survive.
yeah, it was a startup for sure. It's still, I still feel like I'm in that phase. But he loved the cookie dough and was like, I could so see Gourmet Foods carrying this one day. And I maintained the relationship with him. He even met with me for coffee to go over what margins do I need to expect? Order size, case sizes, everything like that. And then finally, when I got Whole Foods, yes, I reached out to him and I was like, hey, I think it's time. I think I'm because they're not going to work with you if you don't have that anchor account, something large enough to get your product distributed. They're not going to be your salespeople unless you already have sales.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and then once you're in, you're in their catalog. So their sales reps might not know that you're in, they have thousands and thousands of products. So you need to do outreach. And so I started emailing all of the sales reps. I had, you can go on their website and find their emails and got no responses. So I was like, this is so frustrating, which is kind of going back to what I said when I got into Whole Foods and I was like, I made it and then realized that I did not. And there's so much more work to do. So nothing was really happening. And then I randomly just last year got invited to sales, like a presentation. And it was because one of the chefs of Miami Heat, their stadium, was requesting churros, like the fried South American dessert.
Yes, I love churros.
Yeah, me too. And so I have a cookie that's called El Churro.
Oh, okay.
But it's a cookie. It's not a churro.
Yeah.
And they were like, oh, this chef is requesting this product, will you come and do a presentation? And I was like, yeah, obviously. And I get there and it was so official and people had flown in from across the country to present,
Wow, okay.
The products that they were working with. And I was there like, I have cookies. But it went really, really well. And everybody loved the cookies. And, that one chef, I was presenting to a team of I don't know how many chefs were there, directors, and, so it a lot of people, only one person wanted the churro, and he came over then and was like, do you make churros? And I was like, I don't. But I got there, and then I met so many sales reps at that point, and that actually led to new accounts. So I think it takes time. Another way that you can grow with a distributor is they do shows. So you could, pay for a table, which is very expensive. And
those trade shows are just money pit.
So expensive. So I'm self-funded, so I haven't done a trade show with my distributor, but they'll invite buyers, and that's a great way to get in front of new customers. And another way is to do like the fancy food show that's put on by the Specialty Food Association. I did actually exhibit at one of their shows, and that was really good. So it's just kind of being proactive. People don't or rarely come to you. You constantly have to cold call and not get responses and then keep going.
Yeah. The stomach in the no is one of the hardest part, I think, of the entrepreneurship.
Yeah. Well, I feel like a no, I can live with it, but it's not getting a response. It's even worse.
It's even worse.
It's you in a limbo.
It does.
Because you don't know what's going on.
Yeah.
And it makes me think of one of the questions that I was like always thinking to ask you and other entrepreneurs. I'm sure that you feel down like 1,000 times a day as a real entrepreneur and thinking that you're going to quit it every single day or several times. Was there one time when it was the hardest and you were thinking like, that's it, I'm like done, I'm not going back?
So yes, I have had a moment like that, maybe two, so I'm self-funded. I started this with $3,000 in farmers markets. And, use farmers markets to fund the kitchen, the packaging, getting into stores. But that can only get you so far. So in 2024, maybe actually like early 2025, I was like, my runway is disappearing. There's no way that I'll be able to keep funding this. And this was after getting rejected by bank after bank. And I'm like, I have Whole Foods, and Whole Foods actually invested in my brand. That was part of the accelerator. So,
oh wow, the banks were refusing you to give you a loan even if you had
yes,
like your food at the Whole Foods store.
Yes, it was so discouraging.
I imagine.
Yes, and some of the banks would just string me along, and then it seemed like they were going to give me a loan and
didn't.
And then they didn't. And so I was so like, I don't know what to do. And I think it's too early to get an investor. And, maybe it wasn't, maybe, I can't go back in time. But I just looked and I was like, there's no way. And then shortly after just having this moment of being like, okay, like I think I need to be okay with this not working out. I was delivering cookies to a coffee shop that I sell to. And I was wearing a hat with my logo on it. And a few people walked into the shop. I was talking with the owners. I've been selling to them for years. And then the people who walked in knew the owners also. So now all of a sudden we're all talking. And one of the guys was like, oh, I just became, like the principal lender of this bank. We just opened a branch in West Palm and we're looking for clients. And we're giving out money now. But I'm pretty sure I was their very first customer. And I did get a line of credit that kept me going.
That's serendipity. Like, when you so want anything to work, it just falls into place,
And I think it's when you kind of give up because I wasn't getting, I felt like I was running into a wall, like trying, and nothing was working. And then I was like, I think I need to be okay with this not working. And I just kind of like
let it
go. And then that happened. And, I have a great relationship with this bank. They buy my cookies all the time. They invite me to networking events. It's really wonderful. And
it's meant to happen.
It felt that way. And they've done, they've done marketing for my business. It's a really great partnership. Yeah. And it kept me going. Now I'm at the next level where I'm like, okay, now I'm in 75 stores right now, which is still it still is pretty small, but it is, I swear.
Now you're refusing the loan.
Yeah. Well, I think I'm ready to take my next leap, which is also really exciting, but I needed that line of credit
What's your next leap? I'm really excited about that.
Yeah. So, I've been self-manufacturing this entire time, which has been, there's a cap on that. And so now I'm working with a contract manufacturer that can help me scale to the next level.
Wow, that's
wow.
exciting.
Thank
Have you
you.
found
Yeah.
one?
Yes.
Florida? Is it Florida based?
No, it's out of state. So,
Okay.
but I think it'll be a really great stepping stone to get me, to be able to scale.
I've been developing a skincare range for almost 1.5 years for kids. And I reached out to so many manufacturers. I have a lot of stories to share. And I would love to listen to yours. How did you find your manufacturer? Because I know it's a maze and you have to go through a lot of trial and errors before you know that, okay, this is the one I'm gonna, go ahead with. How did you find yours?
So it's kind of a funny story that goes back to, we're hitting like all of my serendipitous stories that I have. Yeah.
I like it. So it means that we're asking the good questions.
Yeah, that's
we're
true.
doing the right things.
You are. And this is all very new. So I'm still transitioning.
Yeah.
I'm still right now self-manufacturing, but we've signed and we're in a couple of months we'll work with them. So when I got invited to that presentation that I was talking about with Miami Heat, and I met a bunch of people there, one of the brokers was aware of my business, of my cookies from farmers markets. And he's from West Palm Beach, where I'm based out of, and didn't know that I was working with the distributor that I'm with. And so he was like, let's stay in touch. Like, this is great, whatever. So now I have this new friendship with a broker who is, very connected in the industry. And he was working with like a meat company at the time. And then he got let go and reached out to me again and was like, I'm no longer with that meat company. Do you know of any opportunities? Whatever. So we're staying in touch. And then he gets another job with a food broker and he presents my product to this person and whatever. So now I haven't worked with a broker. This is all kind of a weird story, but they will help me scale, which is, again, just interesting because I was never meant to be at that presentation. And the same person that connected me with a broker, he was the one that found this contract manufacturer. And I researched so many, and for whatever reason, that was the one that worked out. I don't know.
Something clicks, right?
So-
When you know
something
that you
fell
found
into place.
Yes, exactly. Something clicks. I think I experienced that myself. Two were false alarm for me. But yeah, when I found the right one, it clicked, So I'm sure it happens. You just know that,
You just know it.
that
You
this
just know
partnership
it.
is going to work.
That and the fact that they had the right equipment, which, I sell stuffed cookie dough. So I was always nervous that, it'd be really hard to find the correct equipment to stuff cookie dough because up until this point, we've been doing it by hand. So yeah, everything did kind of fall into place.
That's fabulous.
It was very strange.
Yeah.
That one meeting.
Yeah, and I love that everything is like, there is some meaningfulness in every of your win, and I love it because it's not just, it's just not by accident. If there is something, there is a story behind, because at one point I think you just listen to the universe giving you universe or God or whatever you will believe in, but you're listening to the steps and like the gifts that were given to you by the occasions.
Totally.
as
And
well.
I think that's something that entrepreneurs experience maybe more than somebody that works an office job, because we're constantly putting ourselves in risky situations where we don't know what the outcome will be, and we just have to have faith that it will work out.
Yeah.
And if it's meant to be, it will be.
Your journey has been so incredible. There have been ups and downs like any other entrepreneur's journey. You got into Whole Foods. There are a lot of highs. Now you are ready for the next level of your business. If you look back and just kind of retrospect for a moment, what would be your biggest, highlight? And what is that one thing you would like to change?
So definitely the biggest highlight was getting into Whole Foods Accelerator. I definitely had to go or feel imposter syndrome and be okay with it, but it was truly such an incredible experience.
Yes.
And something that it's not necessarily that I regret or that I would change, but advice that I would give to somebody who's going through it, I think would be to have that proper funding and understand how expensive it is to be in consumer packaged goods and to get on retailers' shelves. It is very expensive. And I think that that's advice that I would give to somebody, is to understand how expensive it is.
What would be the ideal budget that you would say for someone
Yeah.
who is in CPG brand, who would love to start a CPG brand?
So hard to say because it does depend on how quickly they're scaling, or because it's not like, okay, even if you raise a ton of money, that doesn't mean that the buyers will say yes and that all of a sudden you're getting on shelves. So I think part of it is starting small and proving your concept. And there's really no right answer.
If you were to restart your cookie business, with which amount you would be comfortable now to scale maybe faster, or to be comfortable in your fundings and saying, okay, there will be no, I know that with this amount, I will be able to scale no matter what.
Well, I think starting out, so starting small, a couple, like 100 to 200,000.
So this is like the minimum. The minimum you would say like 100 to 100. It's
There's no right or wrong answer, you know,
no,
and it does
would you be
depend on
comfortable
the
with?
product, but let's just say 100,000 to grow comfortably and to be able to delegate. And I think that's probably a safe number. Then, you know, people have told me, oh, if you want to go national with XYZ retailer, you need to raise $1 million. So I think that there are so many costs that go into it that I didn't know about, and probably people that are starting out don't know. But also being a little naive is okay, because you can step forward and take action anyways, and you'll find out.
Yeah.
But at least you moved forward, whereas you might be paralyzed by fear if you understand how much goes into it.
I mean, you figure out as you go.
Right.
For every business. So when you say expensive, I wanted to know, not just in terms of number, but also like, where is your biggest expense in terms of production, in terms of transportation, in selling, housekeeping?
So with self-manufacturing, my overhead is definitely my biggest expense. And maybe working with a contract manufacturer is a better move. But then you also, starting out, won't have leverage with a co-man. And, you know, there are problems that come with that as also. But overhead for self-manufacturing, meeting regulation and the upkeep with these food safety certifications has definitely been stressful.
Yes, I imagine.
So I think, but again, there's no right or wrong answer. And everything that has brought me to where I am right now has been so educational and wonderful. I've learned so much. So sometimes that is, you know, I'm on one side saying like, oh, maybe you should raise or like have a little bit of an investment in the beginning, or like an angel or something. But at the same time, on the other side, I have learned. So if I had money and, you know, hired a consultant to tell me what to do, then I wouldn't have learned
So much. That's
Yeah.
true.
I think this is that downside of maybe having too much funding at the beginning, because
Yeah.
you tend to delegate a little bit too much and then you might be stuck.
Or maybe exactly you delegate, or you're like, oh, I'm going to buy, you know, I have the fund, so I'm going to buy X amount of packaging, and then there's a mistake, and you know, you need to tweak it, and you have $10,000 that you need to throw away, basically. So that's something that happens too. If you have too much funding, you have expensive mistakes.
Absolutely. Talking about mistakes, what has been your most expensive mistake?
I have been pretty cautious. I mean, my overhead, it's not that self-manufacturing was a mistake, but that has been something that like I could have gone the other way,
Like earlier?
maybe earlier.
Okay. And what stopped you from going earlier?
I already had my routine, and I thought that I was going to grow up faster and it would make sense to continue to self-manufacture. And I kind of had a vision of, you know, having a team and employing people and having that community and being a manufacturer, like really growing that way. I saw it, and that kind of pulled me in that direction. But now I see the other side of, okay, instead of spending all of my, not just money, but time, energy in self-manufacturing, I can let somebody else who has already built it, who, doesn't need to build anymore, I can let them handle that and I can focus on actually growing the business.
That's so true. Like, we get so caught up in what's working and what's just ahead, like in front of us, that we don't sometime, look at the bigger picture. We have this
Absolutely.
myopia kind of blocking us, which is so true.
Yeah.
I think delegation is also very hard, especially when
Absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
your own business. You create it from the scratch.
Yeah.
It's your baby, it's like delegating your baby to the
Yeah.
nanny.
Yeah.
It's hard, and you try to drag this moment until the very end, even though you know that it will help you. So I totally understand.
And I think it was exactly that. And that's why I don't want to say that it's been a mistake,
Yeah.
but now I know that it's time to move on. And I feel like it's going back to that letting go
Yeah.
and just, if it's meant to be, it will be. And I think that once you do that, your nervous system is you're feeling better, you're making better decisions. And
You feel lighter.
you
all of
feel
a sudden.
lighter. Yeah.
That's so true. So how many cookies you have right now? Like 5?
How many SKUs?
Yes, SKUs.
So I'm actually right now, I'm really excited. I'm launching a new SKU in Whole Foods and I'm
Big
discontinuing.
announcement.
Yeah.
So
But
tell us what the flavor
Yeah.
is.
S'mores.
Oh my God. I
my
love
God.
s'mores.
It's really good.
Yeah. S'mores. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that one, so it's taking the place of another flavor that I have
Okay.
had since day one. And it's so funny. I feel like this is something that founders need to go through. It's my favorite.
Which one is
Which one is it?
It's a vanilla cookie stuffed with mixed berry jam. It's called the Jammy.
Oh.
It's really good. It's more pastry-like. It's like if you like strudels or Pop-Tarts or tarts, things like that. It's very, very good. And people love it, but most people just don't try it. And it doesn't sell itself on shelf. Like if I'm sampling, I'm demoing at the store and I tell somebody like, oh, that's my favorite flavor, then they'll try it and be like, oh, that's amazing. I'll buy a bag. But if I am not there selling it, it just sits there and it's not moving. And I feel like s'mores, or actually, I know s'mores is just easier for people to wrap their mind around and it's going to sell itself.
People are frugal to try new things, so
I'm the same way. I get it. I don't know if that would be the flavor if I saw it in a grocery store.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would pick it. So I get it. I understand why it didn't work, but it's funny because it's my favorite.
I
you
totally
can-
understand.
Yeah,
I'm the
maybe you
same.
can bake it for yourself. Like,
I'll keep
and for
it.
us.
And for us,
Yeah, I'll
for
keep
the next
it.
time.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll do it. So it's still staying in the the mom and pop shops that I already
that's
sell
great.
to.
Yeah.
Yep.
So you're not like, permanently just discontinuing it. Yeah.
Right.
So 4?
Four, and then farmers markets, I still do like a rotating menu and I have specials like apple pie and things like that. So I have 9 flavors throughout the year.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
Yeah.
seasonal also you do
Seasonal
it.
flavors.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other product in the pipeline that you're working on since you're kind of scaling and taking it to the next level, or it's just going to be cookies?
So my dream is to have as much space in the frozen dessert section as like Ben and Jerry's.
Oh,
I
okay.
just want a whole bunch. Like I have seasonal flavors. I would love to launch them in grocery stores as well. But I need to be patient.
Little by little.
Little by
Yeah.
little.
Yeah.
Yeah. But there are so many cookie flavors that are delicious. And that's the dream, is to continue to sell frozen cookie dough.
Which is your most popular flavor?
My classic chocolate chip.
Oh
I
my
think
God.
it's like-
yeah.
it's classical.
It's a no-brainer.
I've read that Ben and Jerry's most popular flavor is vanilla.
Oh.
You would never think because they're known for like their chunky, interesting
Chocolate,
flavors.
Yeah.
But it's just plain old vanilla. So yeah, everybody goes for the classic.
But whenever I'm asking my daughter what flavor of ice cream she wants, it's always vanilla. And whatever cookie she wants, it's always cookie with chocolate chip.
Chocolate
So,
chip.
yeah.
of course, like as a parent, you don't buy anything else because you know that it will be rejected. So you go with the classics.
Yeah.
And you know that at least this will be accepted.
Yeah.
And I'm very admiring you that even though you're like very successful in what you're doing and you've been in so many stores, you're still doing farmers markets because sometimes we have an impression that farmers markets, I did some farmers market myself with my brand, and we have an impression it's like, little grandma or like little vendors that are
Right.
going there, little in the sense that they're very small and they're like doing a batch of 20, 30 cookies. And no one could realize that one of them Most famous farmers market.
So I do have to say that the market that I'm in is a little special because it's ranked #1 in the country by USA Today, and they get like 10,000 people to walk through it.
Really? What is the name?
West Palm Beach Green Market. So
that's where we need to go to grab some cookies.
Yeah.
Take a note.
It's a great market, and I also think that grassroots, like marketing through the grassroots, is a great way to establish those long-term loyal customers. True. And I have them, and they show up and they root for me, but it's because of the farmers markets.
The personal relation is a must.
It is. And they get to see, the growth story. Yeah. And they come up and they're like, I remember when you were, you're just starting, or you had just the plain white bags with stickers. Like, I've been buying from you since then. And that's such a cool thing that I think, do I want to be at the farmers markets forever? Probably not.
Yeah. One day you would outsource it to someone.
Yes, I think that's what will happen. Mm-hmm.
Another thing that, I have been noticing, and I'm sure you must be also noticing, right now there's too much noise about, build it in public and, be the face and voice behind your brand, even before your product is launched. Like we saw it with Alex and
I love this vibe.
I know. Yeah, of course, even I love to. But, we have to realize that people like Alex or Hailey Bieber, for that matter, they are like, in the public space. They are like public people, like, they are celebrities and they are in this space. And, for them, it's another product. It's another launch. I'm sure they put in a lot of effort in it. But somebody who's starting from the scratch, who's like a nobody, for them coming up and showing their face and like, building all that content, it's scary and intimidating. How do you, like, what's your take on it? Do you do that for your business or like you plan to do, or you have some different idea for it?
I do try to get on social media and show my face, and it is so hard. And I have so much respect for influencers who are putting themselves out there to the world. It is honestly very difficult. But I can't really say I'm like building out loud or publicly. I don't show too much of the behind the scenes like other founders do. Alex Earle, she didn't really either. She kept it private before her launch up until very recently. So she actually was also kind of behind the scenes, not showing it publicly and not telling people about it. Obviously, she's front and center of her brand. And I do try to be on social media, talking to the camera as much as possible, but it's not so much showing
what's going behind the scenes,
or like too many, or telling people my plans before they're actually happening. Like I talked about launching the s'mores when it was already on shelf, and I've known that was going to happen since, or I submitted it to Whole Foods in August and found out October of 2025 for launch in April of 2026. I've known about this for a long time, and I didn't talk about launching a new flavor. So I'm pretty protective over my ideas until something is,
actually
set in stone.
Fruition.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes sense.
And I'm sure we all are like this. I am very scared to share something beforehand, and I'm very admiring. Like, I love those vibes of building in public, and I'm following some of the entrepreneurs who just basically saying, I have no product, I have an idea, but I'm sharing with you my idea, and here is a sample, and here is my tech pack, and here is this. And I'm really admiring the guts that they have to like speak about it, because things can go wrong, probably.
And they do.
Sometimes.
All the time.
Yeah.
They're scared of that. They're like, well, things will go wrong. I will talk about the wrong things. And I'm like, wow, I would have loved to do that. So
yeah, that's why it takes guts.
Yeah.
I definitely think
it's frugal as I think a few girls. I'm not talking that much before things happening.
When I think you need to always get out of your comfort zone, but also do what feels right for you. And you need to find the balance, I think. But some things also need to stay private. There are weird stories too where, I've talked to people and it turns out that they were an investor in another frozen cookie dough brand.
Oh.
So sometimes, yeah.
So you
sometimes,
never know with
Yeah.
whom you're talking.
yeah.
Brings
Those are
to
fun
another
stories.
question. How do you handle competition? Because, like, once people realize that something is successful, there are, people coming and kind of, pretty much doing the same thing. How
Right.
do you kind of differentiate?
So it's tricky, and you need to find the balance there too, because I think that in ways competition is great. You need, especially with something like what I'm doing, frozen cookie dough, it's not a category yet. It's, there's white space there. So it's good if there are other brands, because then it will bring more awareness to the category. It's kind of like Poppy and Olipop. They use each other to grow the space. So I do want to see more people be educated on frozen cookie dough. But at the same time, it's difficult to see somebody else go national and, wonder why you're not yet. So you just have to trust that, everything will happen in its time. And then how can I differentiate? I do that in several ways. One, the cookie dough is made in a nut-free facility. So a lot of cookie doughs are made, alongside or on equipment that also manufactures things with nuts that are not friendly for people with nut allergies. And another way is with my unique flavors. So the other frozen cookie doughs out there are sticking with the basics, like chocolate chip, a double chocolate, oatmeal raisin, things that you've seen forever. And my cookies are nostalgic, but they're innovative in that they're stuffed. So I have like a snickerdoodle cookie stuffed with dulce de. So it's got a milk-based caramel filling, and a chocolate cookie stuffed with a chocolate filling. So it's like a lava cake almost.
I'm just
I'm just my head is like can't focus.
I'm
You're
trying to like
salivating into
visualize
cookies
them.
now.
I'm already eating your cookies.
And I have had it. They're so good.
Thank you.
It's even more harder to concentrate.
Yeah, try them.
Sorry for the tease.
You're selling very well because now we're like,
Just dropping the
Okay.
flavors.
And the cookies, I mean, they're even better than they sound. They are
Yes.
very good.
Yeah.
They're indulgent, and then they're also oversized. So they're more like bakery style cookies rather than a 1 ounce cookie.
they're chunky.
They're each more than a
chunky,
quarter
yeah.
pound.
Yeah.
People have them often for like dinner parties, hosting, family events, things like that, because they're like special, cookies. They're not your average. I love, I grew up with like Nestle Toll House, so love that. But they're different. They're more like bakery style, because that's how I started.
Yeah. I have a secret. So my daughter, sometimes I like, when she insists on baking and I don't want to do everything from the scratch, I keep few of your cookies in my freezer.
Yes.
And I just grab it and I just, okay, we are going to make it. And then I let her open the wrapper and then make her feel like she's like, doing all the prep. And then we kind of, I put it in the oven and it comes out and then she cuts it like,
Yeah.
when it's cold. So it's like, when I want to take that shortcut, it's so helpful at that time. And it smells heavenly.
It's a whole experience.
Yeah.
So it's easy to make, but you're also like spending time doing it. And yeah, I'm definitely not just selling a cookie. I'm selling the experience.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I think you did amazingly.
Yeah.
presented,
Thank you.
And I'm really grateful
think-
that you
yeah.
were so transparent about your way. You shared with us some very nice stories
Thank you.
that happened, and I'm sure that not all of them might be very easy to share from some perspective, because sometimes acknowledging our mistakes or our screw ups is hard. But you were amazing on that. Thank you so much for
Thank you.
Absolutely.
for being so transparent and authentic, and for giving us this saliva in the mouth, the water in the mouth.
Yeah. Go to Whole Foods after this and like just buy more cookies from there, right?
Thank
Now
you.
I'm thinking that I'm definitely going to stop in the Whole Foods in Miami. We can find it.
Yes.
It's here
Okay.
in the Midtown also, right? In
Yes.
the Whole Foods in Midtown. Yeah, it's there right now. We should go after this. Let's wrap it up quickly.
Thank you.
Okay, bye.